Hello, and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Out Show. As you can see, I got a haircut. A little bit of a haircut. It's mostly it's the same deal, just a little bit shorter. It's the same kind of thing. And, speaking of haircuts, we're going to be drawing a character today who is quite the haircut. Aren't you proud of me? Look at my segues. A character with quite the haircut. Strider. Strider Hiryu from the Strider franchise. Okay, so I intend by the next one of these that we will most likely have a few more characters drawn at the sides here at either side. So I suppose we'll see then what the story is. But yeah, so we're going to be drawing Strider, which means I should probably start incrementally removing characters that are not needed. Strider is very far forward, but he kind of needs to be. He's a little further forward than Ryu, I think, and he's further forward than Spider-Man, I believe, but he's about on the same level as some of the later characters we'll get to. But yeah, Strider is a fun character. I don't really know very much about Strider, to be honest, other than he's got kind of wild hair and he's got a cool design. I think that's most of what people usually know. Yeah, most of what most people know about Strider, to be honest. 'Cause I don't know how popular those Strider games are. I don't really know anything about it. I don't really know anything about it at all. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those poses. What I didn't know was that his sword has like two handles on it. It's got a handle here, and then the rest of the handle goes up that way, like that way, and then it becomes the blade here. So he holds it from the side, and then it kind of like spins around. I always thought he just held it like a sword. I always thought it was just a normal sword, but I guess I was wrong. I guess I was wrong for assuming such a thing. Yeah. Again, I'm quite tired at the moment, so we'll see how much I managed to muster during this, how much interesting information I managed to muster, or how many kind of things I can bring myself to talk about, because as I say, I am very tired. But yeah, this was another pose which was kind of, I had to figure out on my own, because I just used head reference. I might have had shoulders, I'm not sure, I don't remember, and I'm not about to check. I'll probably check by accident during this, because you've probably noticed that I keep accidentally flashing my reference on screen. I'm not trying to hide it or anything, it's just some of these thought companies are tricky. So I don't really want to run the ire of any of them. But yeah, that's yeah, just the thing. But yeah, just this kind of pose where he's got the two fingers out like that is a very kind of common pose for Strider. But yeah, it looks from this angle like he's like holding it to his ear, but that maybe I'll just make his fingers a little thicker, and then it won't come across as much. But yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I need to say before I get into this? Don't think so. I don't think there's any more preamble that I need to do. But yeah, the hair alone will probably take a while here. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to make minor adjustments as I'm going here. Like, I tried to make some adjustments to the fingers so that it looks like they're in front of his face, not behind it, or not at his face, but in front of his face. because the idea here is that it's this but at an angle, and he's also turning his head a little bit, so it should be this kind of thing, of where it's still in front, but should still be overlapping a little bit with his face, and stuff like the buckles and all this stuff. But yeah, this is a cool design. It's a very well liked design, and I mean for good reason. This is a character design which feels like it's just designed to be liked, which feels like a kind of silly and pointless thing to say, right? That a design is made to be liked, because generally speaking, if a designer makes something, they generally want people to like it. It's rare that you see a designer make something with the intention of people hating it. But yeah, this feels like something of where this is like really low risk, I suppose, to put it out there, where it's like this is kind of your typical kind of I don't know how to say it, because it's a good design. I don't want to detract. I don't want to say something that makes it sound like I don't think it's a good design. It is a good design, but it's a design that, like color-wise even, it's got the red in there, the really strong red, and a lot of characters who have red are very commonly liked for whatever reason. Red is a very popular color, and then you've got the kind of the bluey purple in there as well, so you've got that kind of Spider-Man color palette going on, except slightly skewed towards purple. And then he's got the hair and all this stuff. Again, it feels like a character who was always going to be liked. A character design which was always going to be liked. And if I remember correctly, I seem to remember hearing that this particular design of Strider is kind of unique to the Marvel vs. Capcom games. This was a design which was, I don't know if it was completely different. I've never seen what Strider looks like in the original game. But I think this design in particular, the way that Strider looks in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, I think that in particular is I think that in particular was kind of redone by Bengus, if I remember correctly. Now, I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But if I remember correctly, anyways, that was the kind of story behind that, was that, yeah, this design is kind of partially, at least, done by Bengus. And yeah, it was redesigned, kind of in large swathes from how he looked in the original. But again, I don't remember how he looked in the original. I think I've seen his design in that before, but I couldn't remember it right now, at least. But yeah, these kind of wraps, they're a bit weird, I think. The kind of lipped up wrist wrap, which kind of floats off the arm, is a little odd. It's a little strange, I think. Bit of a strange design choice. But yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a lot of the guts of what I was intending on saying there. But yeah, the stuff like this kind of symbol on his chest and everything, which I imagine it means something. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Anyway. Right. So, something which I wanted to touch on here actually is the scarf. So, something when it comes to, I suppose, like whenever you're looking at this here, he doesn't really sell that he's like just gone into this pose, but that's the type of thing that I'm trying to give, is that he's just kind of immediately gone down like that. Like a very quick kind of motion that he's gone down into. He's very quickly gone into this kind of ready pose that he's about to do something. Doesn't really sell it, but the scarf does. The scarf kind of billowing. Well, not even that he's just gone into this pose, but the scarf billowing just... He's like free dynamism to any pose. It makes the pose just dynamic very easily. There's very little you have to do beyond that, because that just sells already. And that's the thing. Whenever you have, I suppose, a character like this, where they just have these elements to their design that you can just really easily exploit to make them look more dynamic, more interesting, all this type of stuff. It's kind of foolish not to exploit these things whenever you have them so readily at your disposal. And yeah, like with Strider, it's a case of where you've got his scarf, his big long scarf, which is yeah, it's always kind of billowing and all this stuff. And again, it's the same way with whenever Bengus draws him, where it's kind of, the scarf is always kind of flowing and it's huge and all this, even though in the game it's not actually that big, but the way that Bengus draws the scarf, it's quite big. But I kind of reach a bit of a middle ground here with how long I decided to make Strider's scarf, because I decided, okay, it should be a little long, but it shouldn't be like colossal, because I think it's too short in game. It doesn't look, well, it doesn't really like oversell his animations. I think that'd be really cool looking if he had this huge long scarf, and then whenever he's moving it's kind of flowing and whipping around and all this, and it's really kind of like overselling the motion. That would look really cool, but obviously, I mean, in terms of however many frames of animation that would take forever. And particularly, I mean, in a lot of these games, they only made however many new sprites. Like, I mean, with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in particular, they only made a handful of new sprites for the game. They didn't make too many new characters for the game, and I mean, that was the time thing, I imagine. Because like, I mean, it takes a while to make a character like this. It takes a while to animate a character, so I suppose whenever you come to these thoughts of where it's like, oh man, they could have really kind of gone really overboard with this thing, and that would have been really crazy. It's like, there's probably a reason they didn't do that, and the reason is, I mean, like, animators only have so many hours in the day that they can be working on these things, and I mean, they need to be moved on to another character up to a certain point whenever they're doing these things. And I think the Strider sprite that they use in the Marvel vs. Capcom games came from Marvel vs. Capcom 1, if I remember correctly. Because most of the new sprites in that game were Capcom characters. I don't remember exactly, but I think the only new sprite would have been Venom on the Marvel side. He would have been the only new sprite. Because like Spider-Man and Captain America and all these characters, and even War Machine was just a repurposed Iron Man sprite, so this is the thing. It's a case of where he had new animations, but it was they had the basis to work from. So it was a case of where with a character like Venom and Strider, they had to basically make a whole new sprite. They had to make a whole suite of animations. They didn't have anything to start from, really. And this is the thing, it's a case of where once you have that kind of basis of something to start from, that'll obviously make your life a lot easier, because you can just kind of start from there, and then that'll make the whole process a hell of a lot quicker. But yeah, so that's our details done. Now we've got to do our dots. And again, as per usual on these, I don't want to spend too long. I feel like based on the nature of this design, it's a very kind of complex design. There's a lot more going on with it than there was with some of the other ones, so this is obviously a design that will take a little longer to finish. So this is probably going to be about a 2-hour recording, I would say. But yeah, I really don't want to overdo it with the dots on this one, because there is a lot of details, so I don't want to get any of that stuff lost anywhere. But yeah, so I'll probably go silent for most of the dots. I'd say so. Yeah, I can't think of anything else I really needed to talk about in this section. But where's the light coming from? Let me check that again. Or, who's the closest? So the light is coming from the left, and then the white light is coming from the right. So yeah, the heaviest shading should be here, or should be here, and then inside, and then over on his right hand side. Okay. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so that is our dots done with that element finished. I've maybe gone a little harder on the dots than I needed to. Yeah, it should be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna make his skin color the same as, maybe a little darker than Sakura's. Yeah. And yep, I just need to. Oh, I didn't realize. So that might be why the dots came out a little darker, is because they're a point bigger. The brush is a little bigger, but probably not. Probably wouldn't really influence it all that much. It's only 1 pixel bigger. But yeah, we're an hour in now, so I suppose we'll see how much more we have left. Because yeah, I suppose we're kind of at the halfway point here now, because the colors kind of vary in how long they take. But yeah, I don't really have much more to add, I suppose, than what I've already talked about at this point. So I suppose, yeah, I'll interject if I remember anything. But yeah, we'll see. You know, something funny which I'm just after thinking is that we've been drawing a lot of characters who are in these little kind of like downward poses, and it's not ending anytime soon. Well, I suppose it's ending soon enough, because like the next character we're doing after Strider is Venom, and then that'll be the end of our. Venom's the last one of these characters in like a low position for a little while at least. There's a few characters in here who are in those positions. They're very dynamic. There's a reason why a lot of artists use them. And also you can fit the whole character in frame like this. Like the whole time I'm drawing this, I don't really have to move the frame all that much, because you can see the whole character all the time. So it makes life a lot easier doing that. And yeah, it's a kind of handy pose, because again, it's like I said with the scarf, it's kind of like free dynamics. You don't really have to try very hard whenever you've got poses like this. I mean, not that you don't really have to try very hard. I'm not saying it's easy, because all of these poses I've had to start from scratch on. I haven't, well, not really scratch, but I've had to do a lot of this stuff without a lot of reference. Like this pose, I had to figure this one out for the most part on my own. Again, I did briefly flash my reference on screen there a little while ago, and it was just the head. And I suppose it's a good thing, because I didn't remember whether or not it was just the head or what. But yeah, it was just the head. It was the same thing with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was just the head. It's the same thing with Venom. Venom, I believe, was just the head. But yeah, and then like it's funny because like yeah, it's a case of where these poses are kind of very common in posing, and that's because, again, as I say, it's very dynamic, and you can fit the whole character in frame at any one given time. And it's very visually appealing as well. It makes the character look cool most of the time. There's a reason why artists use these poses all the time. And again, I've just explained that. I'm talking around in circles here, but yeah. What colour should be next? Red, I think, probably. Because then the purple I can put in pretty easy. But yeah, like, it is kind of just because it looks good. That's the simple reason. It always looks good, pretty much always looks good. Whenever you do these poses, assuming you don't butcher them horribly. But yeah, I mean, in the same sense, they generally look good, whichever way you slice it. So it's not too bad. Okay, that's all our colours. Now we've got what else have we got to do? We've got to do our shading, and that shouldn't take too long. Just trim that down to 40% and make sure it's actually at 40%, and then just go up and over and then grab our particular colours for our shading. And I'll probably need to remind myself here of where exactly the shading is coming from. So the darks are on the right. And the lights are on the left. Okay, I can't really think of anything else we really need to cover desperately here, so I'll just do this very quickly, and then we'll do the light line and wrap up. Okay, so it's time to do our light line. So we're basically finished. We've just got to do this and then we're done. So yeah, we did actually cover a lot of stuff this time, surprisingly enough. We covered more than I expected to, really. But yeah, I mean, what else really do we need to talk about? I don't really know if there's anything else I wanted to cover here. But yeah, I just gotta remind myself now, yeah, we do the whites on the purple now. We do our light line on top of the darkest part of the shading. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're just gonna do our light line here, and that'll be it. Alright. Okay, so that's everything done, pretty much. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. I think that's our light line done. We'll zoom him out a touch. And yeah, well, we may as well turn off our background and see how he looks against white. He still looks alright. Not looking weird or anything. His purple does look maybe a tad blue, but I don't think that's anything to. I think that's fine. That's nothing to worry about, I'd say. Now, let's see how he looks against the other. The other Capcom characters. That's our full little row of Capcom characters now. All good. Now let's zoom out even more and throw in some of those Marvel characters. I need to zoom out well and far now to start getting these other characters in. Anyways, that is our video, I would say. But yeah, that's Strider. Next time we'll be doing Venom. So yes, as I mentioned earlier on, we're doing Venom next time, and Venom will have will be in like another kind of low pose naturally. But yeah, we'll talk about Venom whenever we get there. Whenever we get to that next week. Um, but yeah, so I suppose I'll just sign off because yeah, I think we covered a lot of the stuff. We covered a lot more here than I expected to. We talked a little bit about kind of the sprites and animations and stuff, which yeah, again, I wasn't really expecting to touch on that stuff all that much. But yeah, yeah, I suppose yeah, we'll just wrap up and that'll be it. So if you liked the video, do what you normally do. I'm not going to pressure you. Um, like the video if you want. If not, oh well. No skin off my back. That sounds very dismissive. I would appreciate it if you did. If you don't, oh well. You don't have to. I'm not gonna. There's no real incentive. And it's the same deal with subscribing. Subscribe if you want. No pressure. No pressure to do so. And yeah, if you decide to watch the next video, I'll see you next time. So I suppose that's it. I'll just say goodbye then. So bye bye.